Hey everyone, I'm extremely excited to meet you all here on our virtual meetup. And today with our amazing guest Parveen Khan. Hey Parveen.
Hello, hi.
Senior QA consultant from ThoughtWorks, and actually ThoughtWorks they have released the new technology radar today, as far as I understand. Check it out. I do love watching the radar, and I actually hope we will get there sometime. But that's we will see that in future. And we're going to discuss shiftless testing basics, like how do we start all that and why do we need it. And let's start with the basic, with the first question to you, Parveen. How actually shift-left approaches can get along with classical QA? And the question is quite important, as we know that no approach is done in no time. So you should make it like a piece by piece, and you should make them work together. So how do they live together along? How do they get along?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's never first of all, yeah, any approach, whether it's shift left or shift right or continuous testing, when you just join a new team, it's not like you just start with and it's bang on, yeah, everyone starts following it. It's more of like piece to piece, taking step by step of first of all, starting with why do we need it? Why do we need to even follow that kind of an approach? And what are the things that we need to do to follow that approach? So if you think about why, it's more of um, being involved very early on as a tester, so that you understand the why of the feature or the why of the requirements. And it's more of not just being there in sitting in, I don't know, a lot of people might be following they have their Kanban board or or any kind of board they follow, not just sitting in the in testing column, but more of moving towards the left, where the requirements are being discussed, the features are being discussed. It could be any depending on the context of your team, right? It could be your team does three amigos, or you kind of have sprint planning, or you have some kind of backlog grooming, or these are the forums where business stakeholders and the BAs and the product specialists who are very close to the users, they are discussing the features. And that is where if you get involved more, you get the context of what are we trying to solve by introducing this feature, and why are we doing this. And then that kind of brings into your mindset when you can share, when you're pairing with the developer early on, while you're testing. It could be again, that's one of the things where you can involve from the requirements perspective to shift left. And it could be something like when the developers are picking up the stories, kind of doing a kickoff of the feature before the story is being picked up, so that everyone comes together and are asking the questions of oh, hey, look, this is what I think this story is about. So am I correct in understanding? And then as a QA, you can go we have these ACs, acceptance criteria. What else do we need to test? Do we have do we think we need to prepare some specific test data for it? So it's more of being involved and asking those questions, so that everyone else can start thinking about those things. And once the feature has been developed, right, or implemented, or it is being implemented, you can pair with the developer when they are writing the unit tests, go through it's it doesn't have to be you don't have to be solo yourself while testing, or developers don't have to be solo. It's more of making use of those pairing, and trying to be involved and do the testing while you're pairing with the developer once they have implemented the story. So this way you are sharing your knowledge. It's not just shifting left and just getting things done early, or you being involved, but you're sharing your knowledge. You are enabling someone else to capture that tester's mindset, so
Yeah, I get it.
yeah, I think this is all. I think there's so many different things that you can do to do this kind of an approach, follow this kind of approach.
Yeah, thank you. I actually really like this concept, as far as I've been talking about TestOps concepts and the approach for years. And the first time I've actually made a talk about that, My friend developer said like exactly this thing. We are developers. We developers can test by ourselves. Why do we need actual QA now? And who actually needs TestOps? And I was like, well, actually, developers usually test the happy path, and that's not a bad thing. That's their like work. They are building solution and they are checking it actually works. And then the QA people are usually checking if it works in any circumstances and if it works in case the user doesn't get how it works. And I believe that the sooner you actually come with these questions, the less the price will be to pay for covering all this stuff. Am I right? Like, just
Y-
that's actually something I'm catching from you, but I believe that I might be biased about that because I've been suffering from that stuff for years.
Yeah, no, I think that I think you're right. Like, it's more of like I know this thing, this trend of like, yeah, developers can test. Yes, of course they can test and they should test. Like,
Of
if they are
course.
implementing something, they need to check, they need to test whether whatever they have implemented is working fine or not. They have to test. But the thing what QA brings to the table is like how you can use your creative exploratory mindset to explore the feature and how you can and asking those questions and like adding that extra value because testing is not just checking or not just checking those AC like acceptance criteria is matching or testing is not something like, oh yeah, we have automated few test cases or test scenarios that we think are like that we need to test and it's done. It's not done. It's more like there's so much more to be done. So I think that's where it's more like that's where the QA the tester comes into the picture.
Yeah, so another question is actually well, I believe that some people just think that testers are people who are like clicking the buttons to verify they're actually working. And I've been working for years to like change this mindset because actually a good QA person has specific and really unique experience and usually, well, at least at our team, QA people and support people, they have broader look at the product like as a
Yeah,
whole than
yeah,
a develop like creating some feature or like implementing or
yeah.
development or anything. So that's actually also something which is really precious to start with on the software development lifecycle.
Yeah, I know. I still see a lot of people, I still meet a lot of people who have this mindset or thought process of like, yeah, testers, like, you just click around and like try to find the bugs or maybe just do the testing. But yeah, it's not just that, like, to be honest, like, it's not like the perception is like, oh yeah, developer is developing something and you get something hand over to you and you do the testing and you just get it done and you're sitting there just to test. Absolutely not. It's like, it's more of like you're trying to be the advocate, like
Yes.
these days you might hear a lot, right? Like we are kind of like advocating for the quality. You are kind of coaching the team, you're kind of enabling the team. So it's more than what you think what a tester can do or
Yeah.
does on a team, because it's more like you are you're using all your different skills, like your influencing skills by using those skills to advocate about the quality so that everyone can think it's not just you on the team like checking or testing, but it's more of like the whole team is thinking about, because it's not like testing is not like a phase where you think about testing on only one certain stage, like
Yeah.
for example once the feature has been done or not. Like it's not a phase. Testing is throughout, so you need to think throughout. So for you to do like for you and you cannot be all the everywhere, right, as a tester. So you trying to create that environment, you trying to enable everyone on the team by coaching or by advocating so that everyone can think about quality in different stages while the feature is going from the left to the right, and once it's been deployed to the production. So it's more about that. So you cannot even say that, yeah, you're just checking and getting things done. Yeah.
Yeah, well, to be honest, that sounds really good, as it sounds like we are trying to find a space for testers and QA people to share their expertise, actually. And that's what we've been going for like 7 years latest, at least in IT industry, when people started talking about DevOps, like agiles and like slow, like fast-paced development with like concentrated teams, and that's actually works great. But me, like when I try to think of myself as a tester, and I'm like, okay, but at what point should I get involved? Like, I'm good at testing, but I don't know anything about our clients except like the things our marketing team actually described in personas and customer journey maps and so on. So, can I be a part of like feature planning, or maybe I should be a person who comes during the implementation stage, or it's just fine when everything is deployed to the testing and I'm testing that stuff before it gets deployed to our customers. So what do you think is the best way to start for a tester who is actually being a little bit scared of getting on the whole software developer like development life cycle?
Yeah, I think I get it. Like, yeah, I think one thing that has always helped me personally is by um, involve, like, pairing has always been my very like, kind of, I can say it's one of the tool I use on, like, for doing anything or everything. Like, if I want to know more about how, like, our design team is doing their user research and what kind of people they are meeting and how are they creating those personas, for example. So if I'm interested, then I always like, just try to ask them, like, hey, look, I'm interested to know more about this. Can we pair on this while you're doing this? Or like, and it won't come straight away if people are not used to pairing, but it takes more building that relation, trying to get into, like, it takes a bit of a process, but a bit of a time. But I think once you build that relation, once you show your keen interest, and once you show, especially when you say people that, hey, can I pair with you, people might feel like depending on whom you asking this question. Like, for example, if you're asking for to pair to a BA or business analyst or to a designer or to a developer, it depends what you want to do, right, while you're pairing. So
Yep.
maybe making it more obvious and clear about what is your intention while pairing, and what exactly do you want to do, and what exactly are you trying to get out of it. So maybe being more specific and clear might help the other person whom you want to pair with, like, understand why you were trying and what you're trying to do and why you're trying to pair. And then maybe that kind of becomes a more regular practice of, like, what kind of information you want to figure out, like, depending on what you, like as you said, right, like, with your clients, like, depending on which like, designer or a business analyst or a business stakeholder, you can always build that relation and have this kind of a pairing concept, and then try to involve. So sometimes for me, what has worked is, like, instead of saying that, setting a process saying that can we just pair all the way long, um, instead of saying that, what has worked for me is, like, just getting along and like, just pairing as and when I can, and share, and also sharing my knowledge and asking those questions. And, like, that has kind of helped me to build that practice within the team. So I think, if someone is scared or thinks where to involve, what to be involved, it's more like, maybe start with something small. Like, start with, what are you trying to understand? Like, start with, like, what is it you're trying to understand, and what are your questions? Or, like, just start with that and pair with one specific role and see how it goes. So I think you can take a gradual step, and then yeah, make it as a kind of a start or a practice.
Yeah, sounds great. And to be honest, that sounds actually as a great idea. I've never heard that one, because we've got a QA engineer in QA Meta software, just one, and it's enough, I believe, for the moment. But and her approach is definitely looks like something you are talking about, because when she finds something which works, it doesn't even work wrong, but she finds it like maybe not really perfect UX, or maybe something is not really easy to understand, or a button which is not easy to find. She goes to our UX manager and says like, okay, can you just tell me the idea behind this logic? And after that, we actually fixed a lot of issues which were in fact mentioned in our support team backlog. And that's where the magic actually happens, because if we've actually, if we would ask that testing person who are usually really thorough in checking all the stuff, we would just avoid the creation of the whole process and the whole weird UX or weird decisions or buttons and so on. So I do love the concept of working together with a QA person to find these meeting points where a QA person may decide what to do. So, and let's go to the next question, which is actually, I believe, quite connected to the topic we've been discussing. You've been speaking about QualityOps for some time already. Could you just let me know and let our listeners know what is it like in common as a concept, and then maybe how it actually helps people to get involved earlier, as we are discussing shift left?
Yeah, I think, as I said, like everyone has their own like different terminologies that and I think they use, like just like I think to me it is more of like holistic view of the whole testing, like from the start till the end, and it's more of like the whole continuous loop of like like how are you learning from the like shifting right, and learning from the users, from the system itself, and trying to get that as a feedback and adding it to your process while you're shifting left. So it's like very much like feedback loop throughout, and it's more to do with the combination of like all the processes, all the tools that you use, and how do you approach, and what is your strategy towards it. So it's like not one thing, it's kind of quite a lot of things that's mixed together, that comes up to the, like, as I said, like not looking at the feature level or a team level, because now these days, like you might be like there might be companies where they have cross-functional teams working on the same product. Maybe they might be 5, 10, or 20 cross-functional teams, like so it's more of like looking at the product holistic view, and then coming up with like what tools do we need, or what kind of processes, and how do we build that culture, quality culture within the team. So it's a quite a like mix of tools, processes, culture, and feedback.
Yeah, so it's basically the DevOps for quality, and that's
Yeah.
great to hear, because I've been waiting for me to jump in with my TestOps wording, and I'm really happy that we're actually talking about almost the same thing, but you're coming like, and it actually makes so much sense that you are saying quality ops as far as you come from the process side to tooling and then to the implementation of the approach, and the test ops, which is the really difference between QA and testing, which is like testing is more focused on specific process, and tooling and quality is a broader term. And well, the TestOps actually does the same. It is not a person or a tool, although there are like 3 tools already which are called TestOps something. So the whole idea is the same. Is like we see that ops people and dev people are working on the same pipeline, and from the TestOps point of view, our task is the same as you are talking about from the process idea, is to put the testing to this pipeline as a like, and it of course it involves tooling, because you need the integrations for and adapters for various CI/CD systems and various frameworks and programming languages and so on. And I love it to hear that we are on the same page actually, because that sounds like we found the pain point that developers and ops people are a little bit ahead of the quality people who are they are not really left behind. I don't like this wording, but they are like, hey, let us in. And everyone is like, developers like, we are testing by ourselves. And you're like, no, you don't. Please don't do that. That's not a good idea. And ops people are like, okay, we've got all this monitoring, observability tooling. We don't need testing. We can see if anything crashes in a second. And then you're like, maybe you would prefer not to get, like, not to crash something just so it would work. And everyone like, okay, we are on a high pace here, and QualityOps and TestOps both are the ways to bring the QA to the fast pace of modern software development. That's great, and I'm really happy to know that we are on the same page here. And like another thing, you've actually said that this is a huge topic. Like each time I'm talking about that, a usual tester, like a usual QA person, says, okay, I'm a tester, I don't want to get involved with Docker, with pipelines. Like we have these admins who are running the pipelines. I have got this testing like server where I can check everything. And then we need someone who will take responsibility and put effort in bringing QualityOps or TestOps practices to life. Who do you think should get involved? Is it possible for us to expect that, for example, a CTO will come and say okay, I can see that our QA people are want to get more involved. Let's think about that. Hey guys, just work with them more. Or maybe it should work from the bottom to top, when there is some kind of QA person who is really eager to bring more justice to the process and more quality to the software. So there are two, this actually a huge variety of options, because there is also a head of QA or team leads in QA and so on, or a VP of engineering. But what is your opinion the best option for a person to start doing all this change?
Yeah, I think again, this kind of depends. It's more context based, I guess, more on how these things are set up in each of their teams, like each of their organizations that or companies they're working with. So it completely is very context based. But yeah, ownership, it's as you said, right? Like, do you think a CEO or CTO would come in? So I think the ownership is more of who, for example, being a QA, if I have a platform team or a separate team who's doing all these things, and I know they have a separate team and they are working in certain way. So if I am interested, or if I'm more I'm very much because we are using those services, I want to be more interested to know what they're doing, how they're doing, what are the steps they're taking in terms of quality, from the quality aspects, or what are they checking. So it's more of having some scaling that quality mindset, I guess, because again, what if again, it could be anyone who is concerned or who wants to worry about what they're building, that they are the persons I feel like they should be owning this. And if what I can see is a QA cannot be always responsible for everything, or they cannot be always everywhere, right? So
Of
it's
course.
more of what kind of um approach, or what kind of different things that you have within your organization. For example, do you have the quality champions in these kind of setups? Like, for example, even if you don't have a QA, do you have some kind of a quality champion who is interested, because again, everyone is interested in different things. So there might be someone within these different domains interested in quality side of things. So maybe
Yeah.
having that kind of a way where people can volunteer themselves, that hey, look, I really want to make sure whatever we are building, we are testing, but I don't know how to test that, or I don't know how we can even test that. I don't even know whether we can test that. So someone who has this, and maybe have some a little community kind of a space within your organization where these kind of people can come to you, approach you. So instead of you going everywhere and asking, do you need me or do you need something? Like maybe have that approach of like people can come to you and ask, like, maybe I'm doing this. Do you think, like, is there any kind of testing that is needed, or how can we make sure things are working? So maybe trying out something like that, having that testing community within your like a little, it doesn't have to be like 50 100 of QAs to build that testing community. Even if you have 2 or 3 QAs, and have a little testing community where you come together and bring these people who are quality champions, or like it's more, it will become more like you're sharing the knowledge, but also you're also getting people involved, and people can think whenever they need they think they might need these kind of things. So it's more on, yeah, no one is going to come and tell you, I guess, like, do you want to do like, yeah, it's up to us, like, like to take the ownership and drive these.
Yeah. Yeah, so I am totally agree as far as I've seen situations when we sometimes, well, like we're doing consultancy to various teams, especially like regarding TestOps, and we were talking to a couple of teams which had like 100 of manual testers and like 5 automation engineers, and we were like, okay, so we can set the process like the way that you won't need 100 of manual testers. You will just leave 10 of them who are the best ones, and they will be like exploratory testers and the like people who know the test design stuff and like testing theory. And then we just have 15 automation engineers. Some of them who will come from the manual testers, we will just let them learn, we will just let them grow and change the stack and so on. And then the answer was like, changing everything is a little bit complicated, so we will just hire 50 more manual testers and we will be like in deadline. And at that point, I am really sure that from bottom to top approach is much better when you are trying to build small pieces of the working system and then showing that it actually speeds up everything and makes quality better, and it
Yeah.
brings real result, or it saves efforts from your colleagues, works much more. Because when people start thinking about large projects, like it's eating elephant is better
Yeah.
by pieces, and when a CTO looks at the project of rebuilding the whole QA process or approach, he's like, oh god, that's gonna take several years and a couple of thousand or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or maybe a million, or depending on the size of the company. And they're like, okay, we will just keep doing like we did, just we will scale it a bit, and then only in the situation when it actually falls apart, the thinking will start. But that's gonna be a little bit late, maybe. So yeah, and I am too absolutely sure that you should be like that. It's better for you when you are a specialist in a field to bring new ideas to, and actually the idea of coming to other people for pairing is great, because you will see what kind of issues people actually suffer from. You will start fixing them a little bit, and then you will start saying that, okay, we fixed it the right way. Like, you see, the QA is not just a deployed testing environment being clicked by us.
Yeah.
It's a whole large process. And after
Yeah.
that, when you start showing the effort saved and the money saved and the quality, like, that's really tough to say quality gets better, because, like, quality is really hard to measure. And like, I've been doing
Yeah.
conferences for like 10 years ago, I believe, for food retailers, and there was an idea that actually quality is being the same as written on the bag. So if it is named like a shitty like candy and it is shitty, it's actually quality.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to make bad products or like no like buggy products and so on. So
Yeah.
the word quality we are using is a little bit different now, and to bring the quality and to measure it is actually like a topic to discuss in our next
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe in our next meeting. I hope it will happen sometime. So
Yeah, I know.
and
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, any change is very uncomfortable and it's very hard.
yeah,
And I know, like, I think that's where it's more like sometimes it depending on the team's context, it's like showing works more than telling. Like, yeah, again, that's where like, change is very uncomfortable for anyone. And to be honest, like, I've been working on different teams and pairing with different devs, or like bringing like talking about this with the different teams that I've been working on. I think I've had very few developers complaining about like, oh, I don't want to pair with a tester to test, or I don't want to test, than people who have been giving me this feedback or telling me that since I've been started pairing with you, my mindset of how I test my own feature has completely changed. The impact that you like, your testing has given me. So I think it takes time, but you will see like, the difference. Like, and again, it's up to you, like, how you try to take those steps and try to capture that feedback to see how, like, whether it has been change for them, or have they been enjoying the change, or is it more of like they're finding it difficult. So yeah, it's again such a
yeah. So being open and trying to share your expertise is actually what testing needs, and being really eager to come to someone, because when you expect for someone to come to you, just think about why don't you come to them? They have the same
yeah,
reason to not to come to you, because they're like,
yeah,
okay, he's got so many test cases or testing stuff, so I won't just bother this person. So the best way is always to ask and then to try, instead of thinking that everyone is too busy to make things better. I believe that's actually something like, if we will build Quality Ops Manifesto, that's gonna be the first part. Yeah, thank you, Parveen. I guess we've got some time for questions or anything you would like to add, maybe, after our conversation, while people are thinking about the questions to ask, if they have any.
yeah, I think nothing much. I think it's more like, yeah, I always feel like as a tester, it's more of like, create like using your influencing skills, or and it's more about like influence, collaboration, communication, and and then trying to bring that kind of a slow steps change within your team. So yeah, I think it definitely is very time consuming thing when you join a team and try to see, like, I've worked with so many teams. When I start with, like, they don't know what pairing is, they have never paired with a tester, or they don't know what to expect when they're pairing with a tester, or them thinking that my job is done, let me hand over to a tester because she's going to, like, take care of the testing, I don't have to worry about it. Or the feature is done once, like, once you finished and you hand it over, I don't mind, like, whoever is pushing it to prod, or whether it's working or not. So I've been on those places to, like, working on those, and then coming to a position within a team where they own the feature from the start till the end, and they come and ask me to, like, hey, can we pair up? I want to see how you use this feature, or how, if you find something, or so I think, yeah, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of different things that you want to you can try on the team. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, one more thing just popped in my mind when you've been talking to people, like thinking what's happening during pairing. Because me, as a developer relations person, I also tend to pair with people when, like, I want to say something about this feature, like to highlight a feature or something we are doing, and then I come to an engineer and say, like, okay, you're doing this stuff, just tell me a little bit more. And he was like, why are you interested in my job? And I was like, everybody is interested in your job, and people are usually so excited as soon as they understand that somebody is actually ready to listen to them, to understand what they are doing. Because, we are all actually, we are all used to the daily meetings when we are just routinely say that, okay, I'm doing this feature and I will finish it by like maybe Monday or maybe Thursday. So just let's move on. And then you start feeling you're just doing some routine work. And that's what you are talking to again. When you are coming to somebody like, let me help to test your code. The first reaction is like, why do I need to test my code? It works on my machine as usual. Yeah, so thank you again. Thank you very much for these insights. I'm really happy for this conversation to happen because like ideas been popping in my mind, and I've actually I'm really thinking about finding this like TestOps, QualityOps, common sense, and then think about the new term. Like, we don't have enough terms for this stuff, so we should create our own. And thank you again.
Thanks.